New Falls Count Anywhere. All right. It is recording this actually 9 o'clock on September 4th, 9 o'clock at night, September 4th, 2025. I'm your host, Earnest EJ Christian, coming to you in a very pissed off mood because my computer is not cooperating with me today. I don't like that. Everything on this thing. StreamYard, I want to blame StreamYard, but I think it's the computer, dude. I think it's the computer. Of course, I told you guys on the pod a few months back, I got a brand new computer after my MacBook crashed, thinking that all my issues will be fine. And for some reason, StreamYard is an issue on this computer. It has been an issue for a long time, but mainly because of the Wi-Fi. I constantly get a 1 bar, which I have right now currently sitting here. Rob, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
See, there's a delay. See, there's a little 2-second delay. There you go. Again, not your fault, Rob. Not your fault at all. The situation sucks. Anyway, speaking of that, of course, our guy, my co-host, Rob the Genius, of course, 1/3 of the Minus podcast, as well as host of the Rob the Genius podcast, which appears once every, whenever he wants to do it. Anyway, you got a lot to talk about today in the podcast. Well, let's say a lot. The WWE was just in Paris this past week. Lots of review there. I want to talk about a debate that kind of was sparked on the very famous Masked Man show hosted by Kaz and David Shoemaker about Ric Flair and John Cena. And then I want to debut a game today where I actually borrowed from a old podcast I used to follow on TikTok. I'm going to play the game Overrated, Underrated. I'm going to take 5 different wrestling-related things. It could be a star. It could be like a situation, a match, whatever it may be. And we'll just see if what we can, that thing or that person or that situation is a overrated or underrated. You know what I mean? So, all right. So WWE was recently in Paris. We had Clash of Paris on Sunday, this past Sunday, and then of course Monday night we're all also in Paris as well too. Rob, that crowd was nuts. I tell you what, those European crowds are nuts. And I think I already saw WWE in 2026 is doing even more European appearances next year.
They're doing the road to WrestleMania. They're taking it. They're going to be going through that way again. Because look, the crowds are better. They're all it depends on how much you like the whole sing along stuff. That can get kind of after a while, but
a little distracting. Yeah.
But they sell out over there, and they're doing more international stuff again because they did for a long time. They didn't hit those markets as much. They were sticking to the States, but I think they're doing it more now because I think it's just kind of like I just think the market is hotter over there, for things. I mean, other than obviously WrestleMania and stuff like that sells well. The PLEs sell well here, but like for I think when it comes to things like TV, you don't want to be hitting the same towns over and over and over and over again too much. So doing some, going overseas for some parts of this stuff gives them a chance to, again, go to some places they haven't previously been to as much. The atmosphere is different,
right,
and all that. So it helps with just keeping things from not becoming too redundant.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100% agree with that. Clash of Paris was a solid PLE, solid PLE. But would you agree with me when I say that there was maybe only 1, maybe 2 consequential things happen in the show? Like Roman Reigns obviously wins this match because Bronson Reed, but then gets hurt. Not obviously it's just kayfabe hurt. He gets jumped by what was it? Not
Ron Breaker.
Yeah, not Bronson Reed. I'm sorry. Ron Breaker. Dude, I am right now so frustrated I can't talk properly. Yeah, Ron Breaker, and he got kayfabe hurt, obviously, which is setting up for what I believe by the time we get to November in Survivor Series, a War Games of Roman Reigns and his crew of probably Sami Zayn, probably the Usos, We saw Jimmy and Jay reunite this weekend too. Also, I think it was on Raw. Against that crew, that side of the crew, Bronson and all that. We may get that. We'll see. It can also be Solo and Jake and Solo and his crew. Who knows? There's a lot of tentacles in the Bloodlines feud here. But I would be remiss, but at this point, that the biggest thing that happened on Clash of Champions was in the Fatal 4-Way match, for the world title. Becky Lynch reunites with her, or I guess you say reunites because they did it once before with her husband Seth Rollins, and costing I believe CM Punk the match, at the Clash of Paris.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, I think we all knew.
Oh, not a fan of this?
Not really. All right, so we all knew when Braun and Bronson got banned from ringside that obviously somebody else was going to interfere for him. We knew that. I guess I was hoping that there'd be like a new member added to the group. I was hoping for somebody like Omos. I mean, I thought he would have been a nice addition to the group. He's not really doing anything. So look, when it was her, when it was her, I was disappointed. Okay. I was. All right.
Yeah.
Because all right, I know you haven't been watching AEW, but it's not the same thing as Moxley's group of Death Riders. It is not the same thing. But if we're gonna have 3 or 4 months of her slapping people and getting in their face, and then them not doing anything to her, and not advocating, being violent, toward the woman on television or anything, but I mean, judging by what happened Monday, she's going to get belligerent, she's going to get in people's faces, she's going to interfere in matches, and then unless
she's going for the throat. She's going for the throat now at this point.
But unless except for the times where they do bring another woman out there to confront her, basically it's going to be her doing stuff with no repercussion or reciprocation or whatever.
For now.
And I know, like, at least in the short run, I mean, from obviously they're hinting that somebody will be coming to even that up, at least in the short run. And also, I mean, I don't know, I just find them annoying.
So let me. Okay, so I'm with you on that. So let me get a little background. You guys know I haven't been watching prior to these last 6 years. I had watched the current product in 17 years. When I came back to watching in May of 2019, we were in the middle of the Seth Rollins babyface run as champion. Becky Lynch was arguably the biggest star in the company at this point. And there was a time for that summer, they teamed together as babyfaces, and I hated it. I absolutely shat on it. First off, I wasn't a big fan of Seth at the time. Becky to me was kind of like, okay, she's great, but okay, I wasn't a fan of that whole thing together with those two together. And I always said that if they were heels, I can buy into the idea of these two being a team. Now we got that now. And I feel like so far, I mean, only a couple days in, but Becky's been a heel now since WrestleMania. This is, I think, her second or third heel run total, but definitely the most significant heel run she's done. I feel like this heel run is working for her. And then with Seth, and what he's doing now, because this role he's doing now is his most transcendent role he's done by far. We have Paul Heyman involved. You're leading a faction. You're the world champion. You're basically the top guy on Raw at this point. Certainly number two, at no worse number two, in the biggest story on that show. You pair up with Becky Lynch now, and they kind of already teased already too also in the past, like they had footage of Becky reacting to Seth backstage. You see, like on WWE, I mean, not kayfabe necessarily, but she's reacting to it. So you kind of saw the seed planted of Becky may get involved with her husband at some point down the road. and now we're here. So I don't necessarily hate it. Now, how they book it moving forward, we'll see. There's a lot of rumors involved in this and how where this can go. Because of course on Raw on Monday, we saw the promo between CM Punk and Becky Lynch, and basically, as you said, Becky was slapping the shit out of him. You know what I mean? So this can go a lot of ways. So far, a couple days in, you're not a fan of it?
No, because look, I'm fully willing to concede that this is me, this is my opinion. It feels real self-indulgent, and it feels, and honestly, this goes against like how she built herself up as a character. I mean, she's a strong-willed, independent, et cetera, et cetera. Now, basically, she comes out there to stand by her man, and kind of, the kind of stand in between him and his adversary. And I don't know. Also, just I mean,
here's the thing, though. I totally agree with you what you said there. It is self-indulgent, which is why it should work as a heel.
no, I don't. No, I don't mean self-indulgent from a character standpoint. I mean self-indulgent like from a real life standpoint.
Oh yeah, and again, I'm with you, but again, I can even accept that when it's outside the bubble because they're playing to their characters now, what they are, and I guess look, I know we're now in the era of kayfabe is dead, that kind of thing, but hey, sometimes it's okay to play along, even though it's not no longer on TV, and I feel like this whole thing we're doing now, can go a long way in creating that, scenario where like, yeah, something does in real life. But guess what? It plays to the character what they're doing on TV.
Brother, I do not want to sit through 3 months of this. Okay.
You might get 1 3 months, brother. I bet you ready. This is gonna be at least a year, probably.
And so I mean, no, I mean.
Let me ask you this: Were you a fan of them together when they were babyfaces?
Oh no, that was horrible.
So what is it? Is it the whole like the married thing, and we can do this because we can? What is it?
I don't like. It feels to me like, you know what? They're not booking women in the main event stuff now, so this is a chance for her to get back up to that spot on the card.
That's a good point.
So, and that's it. To me, that's what it feels like. It feels like this is her seeing her way back to the higher spot on the card because they're not booking the women that high on the cards now, and they haven't been for a while. And she didn't really think. And then she's the Intercontinental Champion, but she wasn't going to be booked in any main events doing that. And and she's on the same show with Rhea Ripley. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and Rhea's more, at this point, Rhea's by far the most popular woman there.
Oh yeah.
And
I don't know about that part though, but again, Becky being the biggest heel in the company, biggest heel on that show now, female wise.
I mean, well, I mean, but she is that because she's in this angle now.
Right.
I mean, but look, Rhea gets booking priority. She gets TV time priority. The only way to not get stuck behind the 8 ball was to get in a bigger thing than she's in right now. So, this is her way to get higher up on the card. And but now, okay, if it was the two of them doing like a Bonnie and Clyde kind of thing, I would find that more interesting. But basically, she jumped in with the group.
Yeah.
And okay, yes, I mean, for at least in the short run, somebody is going to, yes, it's everybody's saying, a lot of people are hoping and it's going to be AJ Lee, but it very well might be Rhea Ripley instead. It all depends on if AJ is up to wrestling or not, right?
They keep showing footage of AJ and her husband CM Punk working out together, but that was an old video.
Yeah, well, right. I think it's an old video, and people, so people, I know I've seen people post that on social media. That was from a couple of years ago because Punk was on that show Heels that Stephen Amell created, and she did she did a guest appearance, and that's what that was. Like, that's not today. I mean, but See, I mean, in the short run, yeah, I mean, someone will be there to even that up for Punk. But once that bid is over, whether it's lasts a month or 2 months or whatever, you know, it's yeah, again, just I'm not, I mean,
You sound like someone who's the fact that you don't like this whole item together. You sound like someone that really doesn't care about Becky Lynch in general.
um, okay, to a certain degree, I don't. No, you know why?
Okay.
Because she weaponized the fan base to make life hell for my favorite woman wrestler, and she doesn't, and that yes, okay, she weaponized the fan base in real life, okay,
Mm-hmm.
to get herself over, and in doing so, brought a whole bunch of shit down on one of her coworkers who was also her best friend at the time. And when that woman asked her to stop, she said she thought, well, you're hating on me because I'm succeeding. So no, I'm not going to stop. And she admitted to that as much. Okay. So,
Mm.
no, I don't really like her that much. Okay. I don't. Okay. And now I'm willing to acknowledge when she has a good match or when she does a good promo or whatever. I'm not that, I'm not going to lie and say that she sucked at something if she did it good. Okay. But you know what? No, I don't particularly care to watch her on my television. I usually change the channel when she comes out there.
Now,
So
I'll tell you what. I always said, even when she was at the peak of her powers, 2019, 2020, I've always said that she felt overrated. Like, okay, she's over the character, and maybe because it's the character, but her in ring work was decent at best. She wasn't Charlotte. She wasn't Asuka. You know what I mean? She said, hell, I'm sure her wasn't Sasha Banks. Wasn't Bailey. You know what I'm saying? She was the next big thing. She is now what Rhea is today. Although I can argue Rhea has much more staying power at that level for a while because there's a certain authenticity of Rhea Ripley that the kids and even some of the adults have with her that Becky kind of didn't have in 2019.
well, I'll say that, I mean, well, also Rhea, I mean, there's this the social media world has changed now. And because the Rhea is a huge like hit even outside the bubble on Instagram and on TikTok and what have you. And that's added just a whole nother dimension to her popularity. And well, just look, I mean, again, I'm not one to look, I don't go on the internet and fire up a bunch of hate tweets or anything on anybody.
Yeah,
If I don't like you, I usually just don't watch you when you come out there. Okay. And I kind of keep it there. And so for me, the fact that now she's going to be in a much bigger, part of the show, that's not really working for me, brother. Um, and look, I'm admitting it. Okay, I got no problem admitting it. Uh, look, I don't fire up hate tweets all night about people if I'm not a fan. I just change the channel when they come out there.
yeah.
And so for me, yeah, I'll probably be doing more of that with this. I mean, just that's what it is. I mean,
Hey, listen. At least you're honest, bro. At
okay,
least
I
you're
mean,
honest. You know.
but now objectively speaking, we'll see how it goes. Um, and like I think it'll do well it'll definitely do well early on. I don't know how long they can keep doing it. Because I mean, we've seen in the past couple, the last two times when Seth was world champion the first time, and then when they were doing the thing together back in 2019, you know, having him as kind of the unabated top person on the show, it gets in the past it's had a short shelf life before you know um people didn't stick around. I mean, as
Yeah.
much. So we'll see if that's changed. I think you know giving him this old stable and putting Heyman with him and all that. Yeah, I think that's a big effort to give it more legs and more staying power. Um, so look, I'm not look. It's obviously yes, it'll be fun. This first couple of months, especially if AJ does come back, or whether AJ comes back, or whether Rhea Ripley gets involved instead. Yes, I mean they'll have a mixed tag team match, and that'll be great. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Okay, but am I interested in seeing the two of them? You know, kind of just do 20-minute monologues to open the show and all that kind of stuff. Not really. Um,
Yeah,
and other than
you
look,
really don't. You really are poo-pooing on the whole thing, bro.
and look, and honestly, I'm, the in general, they're doing too much of the 20-minute. They're doing too many 20-minute monologues to start both of these shows now. Too much.
Really, not a fan, huh?
I mean, it's okay because here's the difference, right? And I know people will say, "Well, Roman was doing that every week."
And so was The Rock and Austin back in the day too.
Well, the difference is okay with Roman, like they every week they were fleshing out characters every week, like Jimmy and Jay and Sammy when they're all involved, and then eventually Solo. Like we got to see characters fleshed out. We got to see plot points, twists and turns, and all that kind of thing. Now, I mean, since WrestleMania, it's been Seth comes out there and talks, and Braun and Bronson are out there with him, and then they get into it with Punk or Jay or LA Knight, and they have a match at the end of the show, and it usually ends with a beatdown, and then once a month Roman comes out there, he gets involved, and it's been kind of rinse and repeat since WrestleMania,
Yeah.
and I don't see that changing. Right? I mean, I don't, I don't see that changing over the next few months. I mean, especially now. I mean, they put Roman out of action, and so Jimmy came out there at the end last night or Monday to help Jay.
Yep.
So, but I mean, I just looks like the next few months it's going to be more of the same.
Well,
And
they need filler time because you have the WrestlePalooza coming up. I think a couple weeks. After that, is there one more Saudi show?
normally Crown Jewel's normally in Saudi Arabia, but they're going to Australia this year.
Okay, so you have one more PLE, a B plus B rated PLE, and then of course you have Survivor Series in November. So you got a lot of time here to fill up programming. So if that's what it takes to keep interest, I don't see why they will change course at this point. Here's my question though: how long do you see Seth Rollins with the belt, and who will he lose it to?
I mean, it looks. I mean, things are lining up for him to lose it for Roman to do it, take it from him.
But when? WrestleMania?
I would say either Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. Probably. I think they're going to try to stretch it out to WrestleMania. I think, and yeah, I think they're going to try to stretch it out to WrestleMania, and then do it there, and then
They haven't met. Well, I don't really count the Truth That match from this year.
yeah, I mean,
and even last year too, the tag match. The last time I seen our actual Roman Seth match, probably 4 years ago, the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and they've never had like they've had one-on-one matches on PLEs, but they never had they've never had a one-on-one match at WrestleMania. And that's, and so I think that's what they want. I think that's where they want it to go. And because you can't keep, I mean, okay, so Roman lost the belt at WrestleMania 40. I mean, there comes a point where like you can't keep the belt off him forever. He's still the biggest star in the entire company. Okay.
It's been a year and a half now since he's been champion.
And it'll come WrestleMania 42, it'll be 2 years. And you can't, because after there eventually comes a point where it's just obvious, like, okay, well, why is that guy champion instead of Roman? Okay.
True, but does Roman need the belt at this point now? He does elevate it, yes, some degree, but they got what he want. They got what he wanted. He's out after all these years. He's finally a over babyface.
Right, and then Oh, don't think for 1 minute he doesn't want to be the number one baby face as the belt holder also, because that eluded him before.
That's true.
And also, I mean, at some point, like in real life sports, the best team wins the Super Bowl.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, I mean, they don't always win the Super Bowl, but if I mean the Patriots, as long as they had Brady and they had good enough players around them and they had Belichick, they didn't win every year, but they kept going back.
Yep.
And
What was in the
and they
conversation?
well, how many did they win? They ended up winning like what, six? Uh,
6. Brady
so
won 7. Now Brady won 7, but
right.
Beth won
So
6.
look at that. So Brady, okay, Brady, arguably the best. He's definitely the most successful quarterback of all time.
Without
Now,
question.
now, maybe not the best in terms of physical ability or whatever, but definitely the most successful quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
He never stopped winning them. Again,
Yeah.
he didn't win every year, but he never stopped. He
He never
kept
stopped.
I mean, he won 7 of them. He won 6 in New England.
So
And
you're saying that Roman Reigns should be Tom Brady?
yes, why not? I mean,
I know who's a bigger mark. You or Jason on Mindless Wrestling. Your
well,
co-host. Roman
well,
Mark.
look, I mean,
He's worse actually. Yes. So
but look, but I mean, no, because I don't subscribe to all that. So and so doesn't need the belt. Okay,
it's true. You have
I don't subscribe to that because I think that's basically that's loser talk. That's that's
who's a talk?
it is it's loser talk because for people who they want somebody else to get a turn. It's like when it's like when they voted Karl Malone MVP.
Oh, it's my
And
turn. Oh, my turn. I didn't get a rub of the belt yet. My turn. Yeah.
or
You're right.
people or it's like so when Karl Malone won MVP, everybody knew good and damn well who the best player in the league was.
Michael Jordan.
Okay. But people we're tired of voting for it. We can't give to him every year. I mean, and I mean, yes, there comes a point where yeah, you can't. I mean, they didn't say Bruno didn't need the belt. Hypothetically, theoretically, look, and when Bruno did give up the belt for the last time because he just couldn't do the schedule or all that anymore. He was, I mean, yeah, for a few years he was still the biggest star, but I mean, if he could do the schedule, he would have stayed. He wouldn't have lost the belt.
Right.
And but I mean, yes, technically, yeah, you could have had him, without the belt and still, he was popular enough where you could have, kept putting him in big matches and not having him a champion. But when he was able, as long as he was able, they put the belt on him, and you didn't hear any talk about, he doesn't need it. Um, that's I mean, yeah, I mean, yes, you have other people get in there and look, you can't have somebody hold the belt for 8 years like he did,
Yeah.
right? You do need to get other people in there just for the sake of variety, and also just and for just story purposes to give your your top star some adversity and some things to go through and all of that.
Right.
Um, but yeah, you should eventually circle back to him having the belt again. Now, he's not gonna hold it for 4 years again, but he absolutely should win it again. Um, because otherwise, I mean, again, after a while, it looks like you got a bunch of substitute teachers.
Yeah.
I mean, and as long as he's there and as long as he's outshining everybody that comes forward, or just you know, where if you don't have him, and yeah, I mean, they look like substitute teachers after a while, and so yeah, you do need to circle back to him winning it again, and look, and especially now you have 2 of them. I mean, right? I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't hold that. Why you shouldn't circle
I'm
back
on
to
my way
him
home
winning one
now,
of
so I
them.
will go back to bed right now.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, let's go, man.
Yeah. No
I
worries.
mean, he's the biggest star in the company. As long as he's the biggest star in the company, he should be in orbit of one of those 2 belts, and he should hold one of them again, not for 4 years, but yeah, I mean, he should get back in there and hold one of them for
Right.
3 months or 6 months or whatever. Again, yes. Okay.
Let me circle back to Seth real quick and Becky, because I guess again we mentioned a while ago the rumors of AJ Lee possibly be returned to the company after what I think 11 years. I wasn't watching at the time. I mean, I've heard of her, obviously, in hindsight and her importance. I think she's the first Diva champion. No, she was the first Diva champion?
No.
No, Charlotte Flair was, actually.
Well,
No,
Charlotte was the last Divas champion.
last Diva champion. No, but AJ Lee was one of the, I think she was a multiple-time Diva champion.
Yes.
Does AJ Lee have juice now? Remember, we got the Nikki Bella thing, and Nikki Bella, that match was, was a shits on Sunday with her and Becky. Is there any juice? We know CM Punk is right now really over, so pairing her with CM Punk is gonna be easy. That should work, and AJ will get some love out of that. But are people thirsting for AJ Lee? Is this something that you're okay with?
Okay, now look, she's gonna get a huge reaction when she first shows up.
Another pop. The WB cared about pops, clearly.
Yes. So that yes. I think so because she's been gone a long time. It's hard to I think it's hard to gauge just how popular she really was because it was during a time where women didn't get much time on TV.
Mm-hmm.
It was a time where like the TV ratings and everything were kind of plateauing or slowly kind of going down at the time. She was very popular in the IWC for sure. So, and so a short run, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Long run, I don't know, because the thing about it, people have differing opinions on how good of a wrestler she was. Because at the time when she was Divas champion, um, the Divas division was in the mud, and she was considered good, in 2013 and 2014. But I mean, the women that came after her are, much better.
Yeah.
So, it depends. I mean, look, I mean, again, she'll be over huge when she comes back. If they do the mixed tag team match, that'll be over huge. If her and Becky have a singles match, that'll be over huge. But I think a lot of it depends on how she does in that match, how that match goes, and then I mean, look, there are a few other matches they can get out of her, that'll do well for sure. But I mean, it also depends on how they book her because we're kind of at a point where because we're there with Trish and with Nikki Bella now, where it's like if they know you're losing, the interest isn't really there as much,
Right.
and
yeah.
then that because like I mean, like with Trish, it's I mean like now it's like all of the matches she came in this year, like you knew she wasn't winning anything, and so they didn't really get the kind of interest that they would have.
Right.
And we knew Nikki Bella was losing this, and so it's kind of the same thing.
Let me.
It all depends on how this stuff. Look, she'll be over huge when she first comes back. Yes.
Right.
It just depends on how this stuff goes, and if it goes well, then then I think, and then it all depends on how much does she really want to do, right?
True, that's very true. Also, the other two matches from the card, we had, of course, I thought probably match of the night, Sheamus and Rusev.
Yeah,
your boy Rusev on the record, not bad. I love that they gave him the rub. I love they gave him the win. I love it.
Oh, because I think he did need it because his whole point of coming back was to to do better. So
yeah, right.
if he came out of there at the gate and lost the first important match he had, then that
what are we doing here? Like just a jobber.
Yeah.
Love that match though. Probably match of the night. But
Well, I think it was match of the night. Yeah.
right. And then of course you have John Cena against Logan Paul. Really good match. Question for you, Rob, though. When the hell are they going to put up this Cena Lesnar feud? Because we had Lesnar come back SummerSlam. It's been a month. We haven't seen no Lesnar since.
Well, I think they're going to do it on the WrestlePalooza thing. I think. Well, it'll either be there or it'll be in Australia.
Or Survivor Series.
Well, I don't think they're going to wait that long.
You sure? Yeah, I don't think it will either. But man, I mean, they went a month already, so.
Yeah, because I mean, in Survivor Series, it's centered around the War Games, so they want the war, and
right.
They want that to be the
centerpiece.
Yeah. Yeah. So my guess is that it'll be, if they don't do it here, then they'll do it at Crown Jewel, one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. You might get two matches out of that, most likely.
Oh, and you couldn't get two out because you could have Brock beat him the first one and then have him, come back and win the second one. You could do that.
Right. All right. Speaking of John Cena, I hope this works here. I was listening to a clip. I saw a clip on the Masked Man show, which is hosted by, of course, Kaz and David Shoemaker. There aren't really many current wrestling podcasts I enjoy in the mainstream. This is one of the few I do listen to on a regular basis. They were discussing on the show basically debate about John Cena and why Kaz basically defending the fact that John Cena is the GOAT, the greatest wrestler of all time, and they got into debate about Ric Flair, for example, and why he's more important than Ric Flair is to pro wrestling. Here's the whole debate here. If this plays well, we'll get it started. Right here. This thing is wing low. Hold on. There we go. Let's get 1 second. There it is.
Right. You're not going to convince me that Ric Flair is more important to wrestling than John Cena. You're just not. Ric Flair, as great of a wrestler as he is, has done as much as he's paved the way for John and others like him. John Cena, I think, has accomplished more than Ric Flair in his career. And he still has a couple of months to go to really stick the landing and put the cherry on top. If he's not the greatest ever, I think John Cena is better than Hulk Hogan. I think John Cena is doing what I think he wished The Rock did when he knew he was about to be out of here and giving back, giving back to the company and to the industry and all this type of stuff. And he's going out there and having bangers in front of tens of thousands of people. Who else, if he's not the greatest of all time, then who is my question, Dave. I know it sounds like propaganda, but just lay it on out there. John Cena is the one name that could walk into any wrestling company.
This is crazy.
Any wrestling company.
I don't even have the energy to rebut this. First of all,
you shouldn't. So who is it? If it ain't Cena, who is it?
And
I'll tell you why it's not.
Here. One.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I don't want to.
So tell me who's better.
I don't have the energy.
Have the energy, Dave.
As this is a subjective debate among wrestling fans and critics with no single consensus, while Cena is widely considered one of the greatest due to his record 17 world championship reigns and his role as a face of WWE during the PG and reality eras, other wrestlers like Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock often rank higher in greatest of all time discussions.
As great as they are, none of them has had a run as long as John Cena's. That has to factor into his greatness. The same way it factors into LeBron's greatness, right? Like some people might have had higher peaks. Michael Jordan,
times, yeah.
Yeah, Michael Jordan has had a higher peak than LeBron James. Those six for six in the NBA Finals, it'll be rare that feat is ever topped. And for some people, that's enough, right? To say he's the greatest of all time. But what you can't argue is nobody's been this good for this long, this important for this long. And John Cena's there.
All right, Rob, your thoughts? I know you have a lot to say. I know we discussed these topics about Mount Rushmore's, top 10s, top 5s, rankings, the whole nine. And I think we all agree John Cena is in that Mount Rushmore conversation. But now we're going to take another layer of this. And this really started, forget the fact when we have him, he's the greatest of all time. For me, this argument about John Cena and Ric Flair is really two-sided because one guy in the wrestling bubble, if you're a hardcore wrestling guy that watches not just WWE but NWA, WCW, and all the other promotions through the years we've seen, Jim Crockett Promotions, Ric Flair is still the most, in my opinion, the most influential when you expand to that bubble. But that's also within the wrestling bubble. If we're talking about the impact, and again, it's almost like unfair because WWE is a bigger company than all these other companies. So there's like a baked-in advantage you have now to appeal to a bigger audience, just the wrestling bubble alone, and then not including the outside of that. Of course, being on movies and TV and whatnot. So I don't think it's a fair debate because both these guys mean something for different reasons. I don't think you can sit and say that John Cena is the greatest wrestler because, quite frankly, there's a lot of guys in WCW. I would say better than not just him, but Hulk Hogan, but so Steve Austin, and even The Rock.
Oh yes.
When we debate these things, the reason my Mount Rushmore is what it is for WWE is not just because of the skill. Skill is actually very small. It's a skill. It's economical. It's impactful. Who has the juice? You know what I'm saying? And those guys have the juice. So Cena has an advantage there. But it's not fair to compare the two because Ric Flair, his best years were at a time where, again, unless you were a WCW NWA fan, you weren't watching. You didn't know who Ric Flair was.
Okay. So to me, this is a lot like when people say that Bill Russell would have stunk into the NBA. Even though if Bill Russell was playing in 2025, he'd be sleeping in 5-star hotels. He'd be flying on private jets.
And you'll have most of the advantages of having the technology and the
Yes.
science now today. I mean, it's not a fair argument.
So you're comparing one guy who for his entire career had this full kind of juggernaut-sized marketing apparatus behind him, and whose company has always done everything they could to partner up with, people outside the wrestling bubble, whether it's other sports or TV shows or whatever. And he's had that for his entire career. Whereas, and also he got to work with, he got to work with the same guys. He got to work with Randy Orton and with Triple H and with Edge. And I mean, he wrestled those guys a million times, and Batista, and and so there's a familiarity of being, of working with those same guys, and then you can throw a couple, 2 or 3 other guys in there who he worked with a lot. And so, and then whereas with Ric Flair was the last traveling NWA World Champion, and what that means for people who don't know what that means. He had to go to the NWA was basically, it was a kind of a loose network of territories, and whoever the NWA World Champion was had to go around and visit all of the territories and defend the title there.
Yeah.
And so he had to go to Georgia. There was Georgia Championship Wrestling. There was Florida Championship Wrestling. There was Mid-Atlantic. There was Texas, where the Von Erichs were. Yeah, there was Memphis with Jerry Lawler over there. There was Pacific Northwest. He would go out to Hawaii, and because he did, when The Rock's mom, I think, or grandmother was a promoter, he would fly out there and defend the title. He would go to Japan and defend the title. He would go to Puerto Rico and defend the title. And so, I mean, he would go to all the NWA World Champion, went to all of those places, and you had to wrestle a different kind of match almost every night.
Yep.
One night you were going 60 minutes with Ricky Steamboat, and you were putting on the technical masterpiece. And then a couple of nights later, you were down there in Florida against Bruiser Brody and doing a damn, brawl into the stands and getting the shit kicked out of you. And then, the next night you were over somewhere else with, maybe wrestling Lex Luger, and, he was a big muscle guy, and you had to, sell all of his stuff, and you had to make him look good and all that kind of thing. And then, and so he didn't have, he didn't get to wrestle the same 5 guys for 10 years. His opponents were not. Some of his opponents were great wrestlers. Some of his opponents were not, and he had to go out there every night, and he had to be great every night, no matter who the opponent was. And he had to sell the match. He only had to. There are only 2 ways you sell the match, right? When he went on TV and played his character, and yes, they would do angles sometimes or whatever, and then performing in the ring, right? There wasn't, you didn't have a 24/7 kind of apparatus selling you to the world, through YouTube clips and social media clips and stuff on the internet and
Right.
and constant media blast. You didn't have that. You had to go out there on TV. You had to get your character over. You had to get your character over enough to convince people to pay money to come out and see you at the arena. Okay, and then you had to do that. And then if you were able to do that part, then you had to perform well enough at the arena that they would want to come back and see you again and pay more money, right? It's a whole different thing, right? And now later on, they were on cable and everything. So but for those first several years, that's what it was. And
So you're saying Kaz out is gorge for saying what you said?
yes, and look, it's recency bias, and it's also the fact that John, it's easy to praise John right now because look, he doesn't have any real problematic stuff going on.
He's way too likable at this point now. You can't Kaz can't stand Hulk Hogan. The problem I have with Kaz though, he allows his personal feelings for Hulk Hogan to get in the way of what is reality. You can hate the guy all you want. You're not doing wrestling podcasts about Hulk Hogan.
Well, look, I think I said this before. Look, O.J. Simpson still ran for 2,000 yards.
That also just happened because my feelings got hurt. Even though your feelings are justified for not liking the guy, for the record. I'm just sitting there saying, you're putting your feelings over what is fact.
And I mean, look, I think there's recency bias also because look, for people who are, if you're under the age of 30, if you're 35 and under, then John Cena is your guy, right?
Of course.
So there's recency bias at work.
As he should be your guy.
Well, yeah. But at the same time, again, it's easy right now. It's very easy to praise Cena because again, he hasn't gotten in any trouble. He hasn't had his name in any problematic stuff.
He's by far the cleanest WWE superstar we ever had at that level. Austin can't say that.
Yeah, well, I'll say since Bruno.
I think The Rock is the only other one I would say that has a clean record. I mean, there's anything out of the ordinary. Hogan, of course, has his issues. Shawn Michaels has his Brett, it's fine, I guess, but he's not. He complains a lot. People don't like he complains a lot. He's not. Even though he's telling the truth, this dude, John Cena is what Hulk Hogan sold us in the 80s and 90s. Is who John Cena actually is.
Yeah, and well, he's in terms of record off the field, for lack of a better term, record.
Yeah, right.
He's the cleanest guy they've had since Bruno.
Yeah,
and that's so yes, it's very easy to sing his praises, right?
Of course,
and
he deserves it for record. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He does deserve it,
right? Because now look, I mean, to sing Hulk Hogan's praises in 2025 is going to get a lot of people looking at you funny.
Yeah, even from the grave,
Yeah, and then look, and Rick is constantly getting himself into shit.
There you go.
So it's it's easy to not it's easy to shoot at him now, and not that he doesn't deserve any of the shots taken at him. He does, okay, but it's very easy. It's easy to tear him down now. It's easy to tear down Hulk Hogan. And look, another thing is, I mean, all right, so Cena's like full time, like him as the full-time top guy was from like 2005 to 2015, and then he
Right.
started. 2016 is when he really started cutting back on the schedule. So, but for half of that time, again, the business was either stagnant or tailing off, right? Um, Bruno was champ for 8 years, and there was no drop off.
Mhm.
Okay, they never needed to switch up who was champ when Bruno was on top. Okay,
Hogan picked it out. Rock and Austin picked it out. That's why they get the praise they do.
yeah, and so if you're going to say he was that good for that long, again, like it's like if you're gonna count rings in the NBA, then it's Russell, right? If rings are what matters most in the NBA, then best ever is Bill Russell, and it's end of story. He's got 11 of them. Okay, um, you know, if we're going to say best ever just based on okay, well, how long was this guy that good? Then the answer is Bruno. Bruno was champ for 8 years almost. Then he took a break, and when he came back, he was champ for almost 3 years, for almost 4 years. So altogether, he was champ for almost 12 years total, and they were never at no point were they plateauing or losing business. So if it's simply a matter of how good for how long, then there's one answer, and I think it's Bruno, and that's always going to be the answer because nobody is going to do that again.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so he was saying that good for that long. The only answer is Bruno. Okay.
Yeah.
Now as far as Rick was his main run as NWA World Champion started in 81 and it ended when he got fired in 91. So he about 10-year run. And there wasn't any significant. There wasn't. I mean, there was. Yeah, I mean, there was a tail off in business towards the end, but that wasn't because of him. That was because people, the Turner people who bought WCW were inept,
Right.
and so and then so look. I mean, if you add up everything, yeah. I mean, if we're talking strictly WWE, it's Bruno. Sorry.
Yeah.
It again. You talk if it's how good for how long.
And this is based on what Cass said, his standards. So
He said how good for like.
yeah,
I mean,
that was the biggest thing. He said, well, there's a guy that did that actually. It was and you can argue Hogan also too.
yeah. I mean, now I guess Hogan because I guess that continuous run as the top guy, he's supposed to start in '84 and ended in what 92.
1993, and then
Yeah, okay, so that's 8 or 9 years. That's almost the same. So
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, if we're talking, I mean, if it's just how good for how long, then the answer is Bruno because you get Bruno world champ for almost 12 years combined, and then after he lost it the second time, he was still the biggest draw in the company for a couple of years after that. So
yeah,
we're talking like almost 15 years of being, the top draw in the company, main eventer, world champion. I mean, that's it. Yeah,
right.
and nobody's topping that. So, and look, we didn't see Bruno, right? But I can count. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
But now if we're talking pure like degree of now, if you're asking me if we're talking degree of difficulty, and if you're talking what you were able to accomplish versus degree of difficulty, I would say it was Rick because again, if there's one knock on Bruno, it's that at the time the WWF wasn't a worldwide company. It was it was a regional territory in the Northeast and all of that. That is the only knock you could have against Bruno is that is that he was not going all over the world, but still. Um, but then again, look, he went in front of the same people for 12 years, and they kept coming back.
yeah,
They didn't get tired of him. So, um, if we're talking accomplishment versus degree of difficulty, I would still say it's Rick because Rick had to draw all over the world. He had to draw, I mean, all over the country at least. he had to draw in places where he only had a few weeks at a time to sell the match. He had to go in there against all different types and different skill levels of opponents. Um, and he had to perform. He couldn't lay an egg out there, right? Um, and again, there weren't all the things that kind of built in a certain amount of business, because right now there's a certain level of business that's kind of baked into the cake right now.
Yep.
Like, they're not going to go below 10,000 for a PLE audit crowd as far
Nope.
as tickets.
Unless
They're not.
that's put on purpose that way.
Yeah, I mean, and so there's no, there's no floor that's kind of baked into the cake now.
Right.
For the business. So like, cause yeah, I mean, and so I think if you're talking degree of difficulty and versus what they accomplished, I would say it's Rick. If we're talking just how good for how long is Bruno? Because I mean, you can't forget that, like, again, during half of Cena's run at the top, there were stories being written every week about declining ratings and declining houses. Like, we can't. A lot of that stuff was, I mean, was just internet stuff, but there was some truth to it. And we can't sit here and pretend. We can't pretend now. We should not pretend today
Right.
that was not going on back.
All it takes an open history book, or in the case 2025, go on Google, go on ChatGPT, help you out.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So it's like, so he obviously was not the best wrestler of all time as far as the ring worked.
Right.
And he was not the biggest draw. And if we're talking greatest ever, then you either got to be the best ring worker or you got to be the biggest draw.
Agreed.
You got to be one or the other. You got to be at least one of those. We're going to say, if we're going to put you in the running for best ever in a serious conversation, then I think you got to be at least one of the two.
Right. All right. One last thing to get you out of here. New game I'm going to play here. It's called Overrated, Underrated. I took five possible names, situations, something. It's anything wrestling related. If anything, I just want to debate with you whether or not you believe that situation, that person, whatever, is overrated, underrated. All right, ready, Rob, for the first one?
Let's do it.
First one, the Firefly Funhouse with Bray Wyatt.
Ooh. I'd say it was properly rated, but I think the people who loved it so much did not see it had shortcomings as far as what you could do with the character long term.
Right.
And I think the people who loved it so much failed to recognize that.
Right.
So I guess that would mean slightly overrated. Okay.
I think it's underrated just because of the fact that I miss those kind of things in wrestling. You don't get a lot of those anymore in wrestling. You used to get a lot of those kind of things back in the day, in our day watching it, and different ways of doing it. But I thought it was very creative. Obviously there's things there's like, oh, kind of weird. You had to be a little more smart to understand what it meant. But it really just showed a side of Bray Wyatt in ways that I honestly think WWE actually would tap into that stuff. I thought we were past that character-based stuff, and Vince got back to that a little bit for a while with that whole thing. I respect that, to be honest with you. I think as we move away from now, especially now with Bray Wyatt being dead over 2 years now, it becomes to me more underrated because I don't think I was able to appreciate it back then the way I do now. You know what I'm saying? It's because some things he was saying in there, But awesome. I see your point being over. I can see your point being overrated also too.
Okay. Well, okay. So I agree with everything you said. So I think creatively, I think creatively it was everything that the people said it was.
Right.
But I just think from a wrestling booking standpoint, it had limits as far as what you could do with it. And I think people So from that standpoint, I think it was a bit overrated because
Right.
it had its own built-in limitations, and a lot of people just didn't see that.
Yeah. All right. Next one here. How about this? How about Scott Hall / Razor Ramon? Overrated, underrated?
Underrated or overrated? I'd say underrated because as far as a worker, he was definitely a world champion caliber worker. But I think the perception of him was Intercontinental Champion level and not world champion level. But so I'd say underrated. And now, and to me, the most remarkable thing about him was that he became a top-notch worker later on in his career. Because when he was in the AWA, he teamed with Kurt Hennig, and Kurt Hennig was the technician, and Scott he was like the big body guy, basically.
Yeah, right.
And he wasn't known as much of a wrestler. But then later on, he became, an A+ in-ring worker. So I'd say underrated because
Yeah.
the perception of him by most fans was Intercontinental Champion when just he was good enough to be a world champion.
Right. I'm gonna piggyback what you just said too. I also am underrated for one reason because you know why he's underrated in my opinion? Because Vince McMahon told me so. Because the very fact that this man with that build and whatnot, and especially what Vince still wanted to do, how he wanted to build his company around big guys, the fact that that guy was never world champion is an atrocity, a massive atrocity. So, and I think you look back now in hindsight too, especially one of the better workers in the business, one of the best guys on the stick, one of the best characters we've seen ever. Whether it's Scott Hall or Razor Ramon, he made those things work A+. You can't ask anything better. The only thing that sucks is he was never world champion in WWE or WCW, that matter. So, but he should have been. He really should have been. So, all right. Next one here. How about this one? MJF.
Ooh, okay. So since I have been watching AEW more the past couple of years, I've actually gotten to watch him. I'd say as a wrestler, he's underrated.
Mhm.
But that's not what he gets the most praise for. The most praise for is he gets for his talking and his promos and whatnot. And for that, I'd say he's a bit overrated. Because he still leans too much into the edgelord kind of stuff, just gratuitously. And he's supposed to be a heel, but he's like so many people now. He still wants you to like him.
And you can tell too.
Yeah, and there just aren't enough people now. There are very few heels today who are willing to just to not go there. I mean, there aren't that many heels today who are willing to only be disliked. Okay.
Right, exactly. That's a very good point.
Um,
So I had watched AEW a couple of years, obviously. You guys know my story of that. When I started watching AEW in 2019, MJF was immediately my favorite character, favorite wrestler on the entire roster. So I'm a fan. I think he's one of the probably even today, probably one of the best promo guy in the business right now. In ring, it's okay. I think he's great. I do think he leans heavy into the smut, into the heavy, negativity. I can see a little more of him. And granted, I'm speaking from someone who hasn't watched in 2 years. But from what I've seen as of late and what I see on the internet currently, I like to see him evolve a little bit more as a character. So I'm going to go a little overrated. It's a little overrated.
yeah, I mean, because I would like personally, I mean, I want to see him stop trying to be liked.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I really do.
Which is weird because, like, as a heel, people respect him because, like, he was getting on great promos.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, But like again, people are telling me there's like people are saying, you know, at one point we're saying he was the best heel in the whole business, and it's like, well, but again, he. And like now, sometimes you can't help it, right? Like the Road Warriors, it didn't, you know, they were so cool and everything that no matter what they did, they weren't going to get booed forever, right?
Right, right.
And Savage, and you know, I mean, yeah. So there are people like that, but if you're not that, then and if you're supposed to be a heel, then you know, I think you know, you have to be willing to just to only be disliked. Okay. And I think he doesn't do that enough.
Right. All right. Next one here we have. How about announcer Lillian Garcia? Rob, overrated or underrated?
Good question. Well, because look, she was really good at it for a long time. I think now, because now, you know, we had, you know, Samantha for a few years,
Mm-hmm.
and she just took it to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, I think the same thing about Alicia Taylor. I think she just took it to a
Mm-hmm.
whole nother level as well. Um, I guess, I mean, I guess depends on what, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know what the real perception of her is because to me, she's not Howard Finkel. She's not, you know, Samantha or Alicia. I don't think she's not any of that.
Which is exactly why I think she's underrated because I think because because she is still well respected by many people, even despite not being Tony Chimmel, or or being Hal Finkel, or being any other because the other solid ones have through the years too that we don't mention, you know, but you never heard anything bad about Lillian Garcia. I think that's why she's underrated because we've had so many great ones. Like of course, Samantha Urban as a that did a couple of years, and now Alicia Taylor doing it currently. Like you wouldn't put Lillian Garcia in your top three, but she's definitely in the top five conversation because she's really good at what she does, and she's had moments too when she's proven that. Is why I think she's underrated in my opinion.
And I think, yeah, I think then you know what, I'll agree with you there because there was a guy in the NWA. I think it was Tom Miller was his name, and it was kind of the same thing. He was not, you know, he wasn't Michael Buffer, you know,
Right.
or whatever, but he was very good all the time.
Yeah. All right. Finally, last one here, Rob. Here we go. The WWE Hall of Fame. Is it overrated or underrated?
The Hall of Fame itself.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'm enjoying this. I might do this again next week. To be honest with you.
okay. Here's the thing. Okay, so for the longest time, they've kind of been the all-encompassing Hall of Fame for pro wrestling. And so because of that, like they've inducted people who technically should not be in the WWE Hall of Fame, right? You know, because they inducted Thunderbolt Patterson, and he never did anything significant in the WWE, but because they recognize people from again because they're the de facto Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Right.
So they recognize people like Thunderbolt Patterson. They recognize like the Steiners. They were in WWE for like a year as a tag team. They weren't there long. Harlem Heat wasn't there at all as a tag team. They got in, and the Rock and Roll Express.
Well, WCW, I think we should accept the fact that they use WCW now as their own. They own it, so technically.
Yeah. So, I mean, to that, so I guess to that standpoint, I'd say it's properly rated because, again, they were the only. They've been the de facto Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, and also, I'm gonna say underrated. You know why? Because given just the nature of how Vince McMahon operated, and how Vince McMahon barely recognized anything outside the company, when it came, they put a lot of people in there who did very little in the WWE or WWF. And when they inducted them, they gave them the full and proper recognition for their careers. So I'm gonna say underrated because they took on look, they recognized people that they didn't have to, and again, Vince was prone to not recognize anything that happened outside of the company, but for whatever reason, he chose to do it with the Hall of Fame. So I'll say underrated.
I have to go overrated because anytime you have to think about, and look, I know politics matter and what happens with in terms of like contract situations and lawsuits matter, but if you have a Hall of Fame where you still don't have demolition in there, you still have Psycho sitting there, Sid Justice gonna call it in there, that's a problem. It's a problem. The fact you can pick and choose who you want based on whether you get along with those people or not is ridiculous. Sid Justice have been in the Hall of Fame 15 years ago. Okay?
That's how that's how that's how I felt about the NFL Hall of Fame, because those idiots, they always had excuses to not put Art Monk in there.
Which is a fucking egregious. I remember arguing that years ago, saying, how in God's name is Art Monk not in the Hall of Fame? How does that make any sense? He's only, I think at the time, at one point, he was the all-time leading catch leader or receiving yards.
Yes.
Yeah. What are we thinking about?
Because he didn't catch 50-yard touchdowns, and he didn't make a highlight reel very often.
So now he said his name. Now I'm picking through the style points now. It's stupid.
Oh yeah, and I mean, on this, Peter King, I'll never forget Peter King for this. At one point, he said, "Yeah, well, I talked to people who played against them, and they were always more afraid of Gary Clark than Art Monk." So, and that was his reason for not voting for Art Monk for many years. And then, he changed his mind because why? Because he talked to some other people who played them, and they said that Art Monk really was that much of a problem for us.
Again,
they convinced him to change his mind.
The numbers should have sold that to you, moron. How does that even the fact? I mean, come on, Peter King. You're a well-respected football journalist, and yet you don't know that. How is it? At my age of 10, 11 years old, I knew Art Monk was a Hall of Famer. Come on, and I wasn't even a Redskins fan. That's the worst part.
But that does kind of back up what you're saying about how some people are in demolition. They just got in last year, I think.
Yeah, some crap.
They just got in. I mean, like the Bushwhackers got in before them, and that's crazy.
Like what? Demolition was booked for a 3-year span as the most dominant tag team in the history of tag teams. What are we doing? Like, seriously, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What's that thing about? And obviously now we know why. Well, I guess it's settled now because they have his contract now. I think officially with the WWE. I think.
Yeah.
Because of a lawsuit, or not, but still, there's no doubt that Dennis should be in there. So the fact you can pick and choose what you want based on your feelings means that it's overrated. Then there's no 100% merit to it. So there you go. So anyway, this is it for me. There, anyone plug?
Well, as always, you can hear me every week on the Mindless Wrestling Podcast with DJ and Jason, and you can hear me whenever when I get around to finishing episodes on the Robert Genius Podcast. I have some stuff recorded. I just have not finished it yet for the next episode. Okay,
get done, bro. Anyway, I am on X at EJ Christian 7. Falls Count Anywhere. Of course, we do this pretty much for now every Wednesday if possible. Again, Rob, thank you so much for coming on as always. I am on X, like I said. You can follow the show, of course, on YouTube, the podcast at Earnestly Pod, on TikTok, Earnestly Pod, and on Instagram as well at the same handle. Until next episode, we will talk to you guys soon. And until then, later.